I'm your host, Paul Markle, in case you didn't figure that out by now. Crisis, ? Choose not to participate. Notice that says choose, not chose. We got some news from the world of Gozer. Actually, some good news from our friend Nick Orr. We're going to have a Brownells bullet points for you, of course. And do you want to be dangerous on demand? Are you dangerous on demand? Does it even matter? I don't know. We'll share a story with you and find out if it actually matters. And then we're going to give you some tips. Yes, we're going to give you some tips so that if you ever find yourself in the middle of a crisis, you won't have to participate. You say, what? Just calm down. I've got the answers for you on today's show.
Stand by for education, enlightenment, enjoyment, and entertainment.
He's not here to talk about your feelings. He's not here to say what you want to hear. He's here to say what needs to be said.
Ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, please welcome your host, the pimp hand of America, Professor Paul Markle.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. What have we got for you guys today? Well, we got a bit of good news. I just talked to my good friend Nicholas Orr. You know that guy, that book writing foo. And we teased you with this a couple weeks ago. I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago or so. That Nick was working on getting an Audible book, putting an Audible book out for you guys. And, well, it's live. It's live. The latest book, the Operation Diomedes, the green covered book, the green jungle book. That's what we'll just start calling it now. That'll be our nickname for it. It'll be just the jungle book.
No, you'll get for that.
The nickname.
Hey, real quick, does Nick know that it? Because I just clicked on the link to check it out for myself.
If you're going to say something about the title, save it for yourself.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, the Jungle Book is now available as an audiobook. And if you guys, I know a lot of you guys out there, you're like, oh man, you're always talking about these fiction books that I should read, but I don't read books. I don't have time. I only listen to audiobooks in my car, or I listen to audiobooks while I'm stocking shelves at work or whatever. Well, you have one less excuse. How's that sound? You have one less excuse not to listen to or listen to a book from our boy Nick. And the link is in the show notes. So all you have to do is open the show notes, click the link, and bing, bang, boom, you're there. If you're already an Audible subscriber, then it's super easy because it's there on your Audible thingy, on your phone, on your device there. So support our buddy Nick Orr. Oh, and also, if you ordered a signed copy of that book, you should already have it. They were shipped last week. Right, Zach? Last week?
Yes, last week.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you're watching live, or is anyone watching live? If they are, Paul, you always ask that.
Yes, we are.
People. We just assume people are. All right. Yeah. Just don't ask and just assume. And you have a dedicated question, a question that you think, would benefit others. Go ahead and drop it in. That's right. Drop it in. And if we think it's a valuable question and will benefit others, we may answer it for you. So there you go. All right. Every single Wednesday for the last forever, I don't know, we've done a Brownells Bullet Points brought to you by Brownells, and today is no exception, and we are going to do that thing. Boom. Yes, indeedy do. Yes, indeedy do. All right. Brownells Bullet Points. Now, Brownells has a lot of stuff, obviously. They have guns, they have scopes, and they have ammunitions and all that jazz. And if you open up their website, they have a website? Yeah, they have a website. It's called brownells.com. Open it up. You know what's funny, Jared? I say that so sarcastically, But I was alive and in the gun business when there were people in the gun business who weren't sure whether they should waste the money
For a
on
website.
Yeah. We're not sure if we're ready to waste money on a website because we know that teenagers use the internet, but I don't know if adults are going to use the internet to order things.
Fast forward 15 years and it's like,
Fast forward
I'm
15
glad we
years.
did that. I'm glad we wasted that money.
Yeah, I hope, and I'm glad we purchased that domain. So if you open up the homepage and you go all the way over to the right, there's a little button and it says emergency and survival gear. And you say, okay, great. That's fantastic. Why do I care? Well, what season is it? It's camping season, right? It's getting warm. Hopefully you guys are going to budget some time in your schedules and you're going to go out and enjoy the great outdoors. This would be a great time to put your emergency and survival gear to the test. How many of you freaks out there have bug out bags or get home bags, or I don't care what you call that satchel that has a bunch of junk in it, whatever that satchel is, how many of you have them? I do. All right. How many of you, now this is the real question. So you went out during the reign of Comrade Barry or you last year or whatever, and you got a backpack and you got a bunch of stuff and you threw it in the backpack. It's all survival gear. You got the tabs and the straws and the this and the that, right? Okay, cool. When is the last time you actually went out away from your house, away from electricity and running water, and used that stuff? Radio silence. Well, it's not an emergency now. I'm saving it. I'm saving all that stuff for the emergency. I'm not telling you to break out a case of MREs and eat them for every meal for the next week. But what I'm telling you is if you have a backpack and it's full of stuff and all that stuff is still in the original plastic packaging and you've never actually used that stuff in the real world, you might want to do that before the emergency, before the, I expect too much of you. And congratulations to you for being a grad program member. If you're a grad program member, you got an invitation in your electronic mailbox to a Student of the Gun organized camp out here in Wyoming that we're doing the end of May. We're doing it over Memorial Day weekend. Now, you don't have to come to a Student of the Gun camp out to practice using your stuff, but I like big butts, and I'm going to tell you why. That would be a fantastic opportunity for. I got the bag, and I got the water purification tabs, and I got the life straw, and I've got the fire sparking thing to make fire and all that. That's a great question there, Jared. How many people, if we had to do a survey, and I don't know how you could do this survey and not cost you $1 million, but how many people who ran out and bought these emergency fire sparking tools have ever used that to make a fire?
Oh, that's a good question. We know from experience that most people that buy stuff throw it in their pack and they don't take it out and use it because it's kind of a secondary. I don't know. It's like our minds put it as, hey, this thing's never going to happen to me, so I'm going to throw it in this bag and I'll have it when I need it. But I've never.
Yeah, just in case. I actually had recently. I've got a bunch of those things. And I always try the different tools and what have you. And one of the tools I got it was all screwed together, and I took it out of the package in the field, and from the factory, it was screwed in so tight I couldn't get it open with my bare hands. I actually had to use my Leatherman tool and grab it. You say, "Oh, well, big deal. Who cares?" you had a Leatherman tool. Yeah, but what if I didn't? What if that was all I had? I just had that one tool, that one little survival widget, that was screwed together, and I didn't have access to another tool. I'd have been screwed.
Literally,
screwed, blued, and tattooed. So this is the time, ladies and gentlemen, look right here. We're still dealing with some late winter, early spring snow and rain and stuff like that. But if I've got a question. How many people you think have emergency ponchos or rain gear or survival gear that's rolled up and it's inside their pack? How many of you guys have ever taken that out, put it on your body, and stood the rain with it? You're like, what? Yeah. Like, actually do that. Make sure that dumb if you had an emergency poncho and you were stuck in the rain and you're like, aha, I got an emergency poncho. I've never used it before. You pull it out and it has a hole in it.
Well, dang.
Well, farts. So there's a lot of things on the if you go to the Brownells emergency and survival gear page, there's actually a lot of things that you could use for not only survival but camping as well. They've got something that caught my eye. They have a bunch of rechargeable lanterns. That's something when people are all like tactical minded, they think high intensity flashlights, right? High intensity flashlight. That's all I need is my 1,000 lumen flashlight. Yeah, but if you're going to sit around at night, around like a camp, or even if it's not a campfire, if you're just at night and you need light, you probably don't need 1,000 lumen light all the time. You need some light. Do you have a low powered lantern, one that's not 1,000 lumen? Just because let me tell you what, brother and sister, you're like, oh, I'll just take my Surefire. I'll twist the or 45 minutes and then your batteries will be dead. So one of the cool little things they've got here is a Streamlight rechargeable lantern, which is pretty cool. A lot of things people don't think about. There are solar panels on top, so you sit them out all day long in the sun, and then when the sun goes down, you just click, turn it on. But how many of you have, and I know all of my audience are like, yeah, dude, I've got a 2,000 lumen flashlight. It'll burn your retinas out at 100 yards. You have a lamp. I don't know, for light when it gets dark. Yeah, sometimes we get so focused on one area that we totally forget about the other areas, like pooping. Yep. You forget about pooping.
Got to manage that waste.
When if you got in a hurricane or a power outage or a grid down situation, yeah, you got guns and but you still got to eat, you still got to drink, you still got to poop. And what are you going to do with it? I'm like, well, I'll just do what I normally do. Well, what if you're on a well? If you're not on city water and you rely on electricity to pump the water into your house and you got no electricity? What if something happens to the water and water's not coming into your house? Like, no, that never happens. Yeah, it does. You going to waste 5 gallons of water every time you want a dookie? Because let me tell you what, brothers and sisters, when you can't get water out of the tap, water just became super valuable. So where are you going to dookie? And you're like, you're gross, Paul. I might be gross, but here's the thing. It's like farting. Everybody does it. And they've been doing it since forever. Not going to close shut just because there's an emergency or because the electric goes out or because the water's not running. I actually, Jared, I ordered one. I went online to try and find a porta potty thing that was like, could be closed up and stored conveniently and carried like in a backpack or something. And I think I found the solution. We'll see.
You got to test it.
We'll see when it shows up. Whether
that's
or not,
an important thing to test. And make sure
exactly.
That
I'm going to test it and make sure that it works. And it's disgusting. You're like, oh, that's gross. Well, we're so advanced as humans now that we don't even think about where our dookie goes. But 100 years ago, you had to legitimately think about that. When you set up a house, or you had to think, all right, where's the dookie going? We don't have to think about it anymore. But it's got to go somewhere. And if I was in a crisis situation, a grid down situation, the last thing I'm going to want to do is to use valuable, clean water to flush a toilet. Yeah. And that's something you also need to get in the heads of your children and your spouses and stuff. Like, hey, we don't use the drinking water to flush poopy. Now, maybe you've got a barrel of rainwater out behind your house. You got 55 gallons of rainwater. Rock on, man. Or maybe you've got a creek near you, or a pond or a stream or whatever. And you're like, well, we can just go fill 5-gallon buckets up with creek water and flush our toilets. Okay, great. But here's what we don't do. We don't take 10 bottles of Dasani and pour it into the toilet and to flush our dookie. Okay. That's a horrible waste. So there are other ways. And these are things we need to think about. Because like I said, as our people, we get super wrapped up in the cool stuff. Mm-hmm. We get wrapped up in the like, what kind of gun, man? What kind of armor? What kind of this? What kind of that? And we're thinking about all that stuff. And we're like, we don't even know where we're going to put our poop. You better figure that out, man. I got a 1200 lumen super surefire laser blaster, but I don't have a lantern. I don't have a chem light. You going to sit around at the end of the kitchen table in your house with your surefire blasting into the ceiling or whatever? No. Simple stuff, simple things. And you know where you figure out what's missing?
In the field. In
the field. That's right. You actually take that pack when it's not a crisis, when no one's in danger. Take your packety pack and go out into the woods, into the field, into the camping area, and live. And that's when you're like, oh crap, you know what I really need? Blank. How many people get out and they've got a rifle? I got a rifle and armor. I don't have a shovel. You dig a hole with your rifle butt. Let me tell you what, it doesn't work. Dig a hole.
I was going to use the barrel.
I'm just going to use the barrel. Oh, you dig a hole with your hands in the ground. Simple things that you don't think about until you actually have to use them. So what I would say for you guys this summer is consider camping or an outing or a backpacking trip or whatever as your practice. If you're one of the millions of Americans that have bug out bags or bug out gear, emergency and survival gear or whatever, and you say, well, my bug out is my house and I've got everything in a closet and I don't worry about it. Okay, great. But if you're thinking about, well, what am I going to do what am I going to do if there's no electricity? What am I going to do if there's no water? What am I going to do if? That's when you figure it out. And you make those mistakes in the field. You discover those things in the field or camping or whatever when no one's in danger. If you wait until the crisis to make those mistakes, not so much. Because right now the stores are still open. Right now you can still replace those things. So now is the time. And I'm not going to belabor that anymore. But if you guys go to brownoils.com, sign up for their newsletter, bing, bang, boom, you know what's so new and cool and everything else. And if you are a grad program member and you are planning on coming over to camp with us on Memorial Day weekend, send Jared a message and all that shit. So, all right. Duracoat. Why? Why Duracoat, Jared? Coffee drink.
Because life is too short to have an ugly gun.
That's right. Life's too short to have an ugly gun. SWAT Fuel. Our boys at SWAT Fuel have just been beaten mercilessly by the communists and the socialists and the totalitarian scumbags in our government. But despite that fact, they still have 9mm plus P in stock. It's the energy formula. You want it. You need it. I would, if I had a bug out bag, if I had one instead of 5, I would put I would put a bottle of 9mm plus P in that to give me that extra energy and focus that I need during the crisis. You guys just go to swatfuel.com and check them out. All right. What do we do every Wednesday? Well, we close our mouths and we give Zach an opportunity to talk.
ShopSOTG.com is the perfect place to go if you are a student of the gun. Whether you want to expand your brain, increase your marksmanship, or help keep your family safe. All that, plus the Pimp Hand brands that you love. ShopSOTG.com has almost anything that an American patriot would want. Education, enlightenment, and entertainment, and we're open 24/7. Check out ShopSOTG.com today and see for yourself.
All right, you should do that. You should do that. ShopSOTG.com. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh, man. I tell you what. How many, Zach, you are the shipping manager. Are any signed copies of Nick Orr's book still in stock?
Yes, indeed they are. And in addition, we currently have pre-sales of the PFT Mission Planner available as well. Both of those books are available autographed on ShopSOTG.com.
All right, so go to ShopSOTG.com and you can get the Mission Planner, which is the brand new book from me. That's right. It is the Patriot Fire Team Mission Planner. There you go. Only yours won't have a gray stripe down it because yours will be a proof copy. And according to Amazon and the printing, I got an email telling me that I should have the hard copies or the paperbacks, whatever, the physical copies of the book in my hands to sign and autograph this week. So we will hold them to that. We'll hold them to that. All right, let's move on to our Student of the Gun Homeroom of the Week, brought to you by Crossbreed Holsters, who want you to be dangerous on demand. That's right. It's time to be dangerous on demand, freaks. Jared, will you open this story for us?
Yeah, I've got it open. I'm just wondering why there's a UFO photo in here.
Is there a UFO photo in there?
It's the quality of the UFO videos, the UFO stuff. I'm like, it's 2021. Come on, guys.
Yep, it's crazy.
The headline says, "I thought I was going to die," says a man held at gunpoint and beaten by Portland Antifa BLM terrorists. He talks from hospital trauma center. The first question a Portland police officer asked the man beaten and held by gunpoint by Antifa and Black Lives Matter protesters on a city street on Wednesday was, "What did you do to agitate the crowd?"
Yep. Isn't that awesome? Continue, Jared. I'm gonna save it up. You go ahead and continue.
And that tells you everything about why militant thugs run the streets of Portland with impunity. The cops blame the victims. Worse, the victims who dare defend themselves become the bad guys. Joe Hall is a former Marine and handyman who currently lays his head in a Portland hospital trauma unit. He's laid up with broken ribs, 4 fractured vertebrae, a dislocated shoulder, a partially collapsed lung, and a broken eye socket from when he was kicked in the face while he was down. As PJ Media reported, there's a video of Hall getting the stuffing beat out of him by the BLM and Antifa security thugs who boxed in his vehicle and then surrounded him with their AR-15s and AK-style weapons. Surrounded him with their AR-15s and AK-style weapons at him. Probably pointed at him.
Yeah.
He wasn't the only car stopped by the militants at gunpoint. See the other video of the incident below. You want to go look at that, then you can open that the show notes, and then click the link. What was his offense?
What was
He
his
got
offense?
yeah, he got cut off in traffic by a moped, flipped off the moped driver, and the next thing he knew, he was surrounded and blocked by drivers providing cover for Black Lives Matter march. He didn't drive through a crowd.
Mm.
It appears that his only offense was to try to drive on this one side of the street where there were no protesters. He later told me that he didn't even know there was a march going on.
All right, let's go ahead and stop right there. This is the Crossbreed Holsters homeroom, and the whole point of this is to be dangerous on demand and to understand that. And dangerous on demand is not just about hardware, but it is about hardware. It's also about the mentality and understanding what it means to be dangerous on demand. Let me go ahead and clue you in. First of all, if you are not a thug or a Democrat or a communist piece of crap and you're living in Portland, why? Are you in prison? Are you an indentured servant and you're not allowed to leave? If you are still a productive or attempting to be a productive American citizen in Portland, Oregon, why are you still there? First of all, the government doesn't like you. The government likes communists. They like thugs. They like criminals. The government has granted more rights to the criminals than you as the citizen have. The criminals are running the streets in Portland. So you have one of two choices as a productive citizen in this city. Either get with your neighbors, form a militia, a training band, a Patriot Fire team, or a vigilance committee, I don't care what you call it, and take back your city, or get out. Because as an individual, they're just going to continue to pick you off one at a time. Either the thugs are going to do it, or if you resist the thugs, the government's going to do it. Now, for all of the rest of you who don't live in Portland or Seattle, here's what I'm going to tell you. We need to understand this. You need to understand this. I don't give two fat rats rumps whether some group of Americans are offended or not. Because you're offended, you don't get to stop traffic at gunpoint. Are you sure, Paul? Jared, if a group of citizens decides that they're offended, are they allowed to walk into the streets with guns and stop traffic?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, apparently, yes.
Maybe in Oregon it says, impeding traffic. There's a law in Oregon against impeding traffic, but it says ... unless you're really offended. ... unless you think the cops are racist. ... then you can do whatever you want. No, that's not how it works here in America. And if you are in your car minding your own business on a public street and a bunch of thugs point guns at you, that is what we call deadly force. That's deadly force. You don't get to get away with illegal deadly force because you claim to be offended. All right, number one, you're like, well, what is he supposed to do, Paul? Gun the accelerator, push down the pedal, and get out of there. But what if all the thugs with their guns and their masks and flags are standing there? I guess it sucks to be them. Or your other option is to allow yourself to be pulled out of your vehicle and beaten senseless or dead. Jared, how many? We don't talk about this because it doesn't sell the freaking agenda, but there have been a bunch of people beaten to death in these, quote, protests. Remember the guy that got the brick to the back of his head? Remember that it was a video and we showed it and we talked about it here. You want to be permanently crippled, disabled, or dead? Go ahead and get out of your car. or allow them to pull you out of your car. What if you're with your wife and kids, man? You're with your wife and kids, and you get your brains beaten into the ground. Who's protecting your wife and your children?
Nobody.
No one. I don't care how offended people claim to be or how racist they say the police are. That doesn't give them the authority to attack citizens on the street. And calling yourself the BLM's security force, I guess we should, organize our friends, and we should come up with a whatever security force and just go into the banks and start liberating money. If we're offended enough. I guess in America, if you claim offense, you can just violate all the laws with impunity. If you don't understand right now how important it is for you every single moment when you walk out of your front door to be armed and dangerous on demand and be mentally prepared to stand between evil and innocent people, which is your family. If you don't understand that by now, I don't know how to get through to you. But maybe, you know what he should have done, Jared? If he would have gotten out and read them a chapter of The Purpose-Driven Life, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
If he would have attempted to dialogue with them, maybe they should send, they should have sent out social workers. The city should send social workers out to dialogue with them. I don't know. I really don't. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. Jared, do you feel the same way? Why are there good, productive citizens still living in Portland? What do you hope to accomplish there? What do you hope to accomplish? You are eventually going to become a victim either of the corrupt state or the thugs, because the state's not going to back you because they're kowtowing to the thugs. When you have police, all right, this cop, that's not a cop. That's the Stasi. All right. When a cop says to the victim of a beating, what did you do to deserve it? That's like saying to a rape victim, if you wouldn't have worn that dress, that wouldn't have happened. That's psycho talk. That's crazy. If you're not like boiling blood angry over this, over the fact that police officers would blame the victim, well, so what they're saying is if confronted by thugs, you need to look at the ground and prostrate yourself prostrate yourself on the ground and beg for their forgiveness. That's what we as American citizens, we have to get down and beg thugs. And really? That's where we're at right now in America? And a police officer that would go to a victim and say, well, what did you do to agitate them? Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. Oh, he had on a shirt that they didn't like, or a hat that they didn't like, or a bumper sticker that they didn't like. Oh, can I do that? Jared, can we do that? Can we just go around and if we see hats or bumper stickers or whatever, things that we don't like, just start sticking people up at intersections and beating them, pulling them out of their cars? Can we do that? Oh, no, because we're not socialists. We're not communists. We're not the pawns of a communist regime. Got it. If you leave your house today unarmed, you're wrong. You need to be dangerous on demand always.
Well, the interesting thing is that this dude had 2 guns, and he got out, and it says here that he got out and pulled a non-lethal device and told him that he was going to use it. The non-lethal device were pepper balls that he bought off Amazon.
No.
Yeah. So he got out of the car.
That story.
Yeah, it's got out of the car, and he pulled a gun that would probably look like a gun, but it used pepper balls. Like while these people were already pointing AR-15s,
actual guns at him,
actual guns and pistols at him.
Holy crap balls! It's almost like someone who looks exactly like me came to this microphone 2 weeks ago and said, stop doing this ridiculous nonsense. Jared, do you remember when you said, the reasonable people out there said, well, why do you care, Paul? Why do you care about these? Why are you bagging on these pepper ball companies and these, why do you care? And I said, because what they do is they convince people to make bad decisions. They convince people that they can use less than lethal force to stop lethal force. And they put people in a situation where, well, apparently you're going to get their head stomped in. Holy crap balls. See, this is when we decide that we're going to be reasonable while the other person is not. Let me tell you something about criminals and thugs. They're not reasonable.
He said that Hall could have shot his way out, but he told Larson that he was reminded of Mike Strickland, who was the first person in Portland beaten by Antifa, and he pulled a gun to fight back the mob. Strickland saved himself by pulling out his gun without firing a shot, but he was the one prosecuted for pulling the gun.
But the state persecuted him. So a man was threatened by multiple attackers, used a gun to stop those attackers, and the state persecuted him. Which brings me back to my original question: why in the F are you still there? Are you an indentured servant? Are you a slave? Are you a prisoner? Oh, I can't just leave Portland, Paul. I have a job here. There are jobs everywhere in America. In case you haven't heard the news, everywhere you might want to move, open up an atlas, point your finger at a city. I guarantee you there are jobs in that city right now. This whole, well, I can't leave. Or the other one, well, I'm here fighting the good fight. No, you're not. For a year or better, the thugs have had control of your city. And the communists are running your government. Don't tell me you're fighting the good fight, because it's not true. Just because you say that, don't make it true. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're living in a major metropolitan area right now, you are going to be a victim of the circumstance. Whether you want to admit it or not, sorry, this is the reality. Now, we're going to go ahead and move on. Before we move on, I'm going to remind you, thank you, Crossbreed, for giving our audience a discount on your products. Now, if you guys go to crossbreedholsters.com and use the promo code SOTG, you will find you're going to get a discount. You're going to get good products, and you can be dangerous on demand. There you go. All right. The main topic of the day. In case you guys didn't see this, in case you missed it because it happened Friday and you were enjoying your weekend, you're like, well, enjoying my weekend, having a good time. Jared, will you read this story to us from the NewYorkTimes.com? You know, it'd be better, Jared, if you unmuted your microphone.
If I unmuted my microphone when I was reading.
That would work better.
Okay. Great. Cyber attack forces a shutdown of a top U.S. pipeline. The operator, Colonial Pipeline, said that it halted systems for its 5,500 miles of pipeline after being hit by a ransomware attack.
Ransomware.
One of the nation's largest pipelines, which carried refined gasoline and jet fuel from Texas up the East Coast to New York, was forced to shut down after being hit by ransomware in a vivid demonstration of the vulnerability of energy infrastructure to cyber attacks. The operator of the system, who is Colonial Pipeline, said in a vaguely worded statement late Friday that it had to shut down its 5,500 miles of pipeline, which it says carries 45% of the East Coast's fuel supplies.
Stop for a second. I want you guys to marinate on that for a second. This one company and one pipeline carries 45%. Can we just say half, Jared? Would that be just fair?
Yeah, we can say half.
Half of the fuel for the East Coast of the United States of America runs through one company's pipeline. Does that seem like a lot? I'm not sure the exact figures, but I believe somewhere between 75, maybe it's between 70 and 75% of the population of the United States of America lives east of the Mississippi River. The vast majority of the country of the population lives east of the Mississippi. And we have a pipeline that carries half of the fuel to that area. So literally millions upon millions of people could potentially be affected by this. All right, Jared, go ahead and pick it up. So early Friday, there were disruptions.
Yep, early Friday, there were disruptions along the pipeline, but it was not clear at the time whether that was a direct result of the attack or the oil company's moves to proactively halt it. On Saturday, as the FBI and Energy Department and the White House delved into the details, Colonial Pipeline acknowledged that its corporate computer networks had been hit by a ransomware attack in which criminal groups hold data hostage until the victim pays a ransom. The company said it had shut the pipeline itself, a precautionary act, apparently for fear that the hackers might have obtained information that would enable them to attack susceptible parts of the pipeline.
All right. We probably don't often think about this, but Jared, is it psycho to think that a physical entity like a pipeline, if you think pipeline, generally you think pipeline, you think giant pipes and great big valves, right? You know, like dude standing on a pipe and he's turning the valve and so on and so forth, redirecting it from, big handles and levers and pumps and stuff. How often do you think that thing is a computer operates it, a computer controls it? And you say, oh, but that's good. It's great because computers make our lives so much easier. Yeah, they do until something like this occurs.
The benefits outweigh the risks.
Yeah.
Administration's officials said that they believe the attack was the act of a criminal group rather than a nation's. Well, isn't it a crime to hack into people's infrastructure?
Well, if a nation does it, it's not a crime.
Oh, geez. Rather than a nation seeking to disrupt critical infrastructure in the United States.
What proof do they have of this?
But at times, such groups have had loose affiliations with foreign intelligence agencies and have operated on their behalf.
You're telling me that foreign intelligence agencies don't use intermediaries to do their dirty work?
Only at times.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Never happens. The CIA doesn't do that. We don't use third-party thugs and intermediaries and criminals so that we can keep our hands clean, right? How naive and stupid do you think we are? Oh, man.
The shutdown of such a vital pipeline, one that has served the East Coast since early 1960s, highlights the vulnerability of aging infrastructure that has been connected directly or indirectly to the internet. In recent months, officials note the frequency and sophistication of ransomware attacks have soared, crippling victims as varied. And does it say in recent months? I wonder why that would be.
Gee, I don't know.
Crippling victims as varied as the District of Columbia Police Department, hospitals treating coronavirus patients. And
do they treat other patients there? Just coronavirus patients?
Just coronavirus.
Oh, okay.
And manufacturers, which frequently try to hide the attacks out of embarrassment that their systems were pierced.
Okay, let's go ahead and stop right there. So here is the number one takeaway from this. This is the question that every American citizen should be asking. Why is the infrastructure of the United States of America critical infrastructure, and energy is critical infrastructure? You're like, I don't care about the gas companies because they're polluters and they're ruining the environment. And if everything was green, we wouldn't need gas. Okay, hippie moron, you can leave now. Here's the really real world in which we live. Energy is critical to everything. How do you think all that crap showed up? Or you're like, I don't need gas because I get my stuff from Amazon. It's like, how do you think Amazon ships all that crap to your house? They don't fuel their trucks with fairy dust, okay? They fuel it with fossil fuels. How do you think all that crap gets into Walmart and Farmer Jack or Piggly Wiggly or Winn-Dixie or whatever? It comes in trucks that are fueled by gasoline and diesel fuel. Ladies and gentlemen, everything you touch, everything you use, the price of everything that comes into your house is based upon how much it costs to deliver it and move it around. How is it that in the United States of America in 2021, we've allowed our infrastructure to become so fragile that one single attack can basically screw or endanger or harm about half of the population of the country? You're like, oh, well, I mean, there's still going to be gas out there. Yeah, where's the price going? Jared, what happens when supply is interrupted?
Prices go up.
No, they go down.
Yeah. Well, if the demand goes down, then yes.
When supply is interrupted, the prices go down and it becomes more plentiful and it's cheaper. No, it's not. Ladies and gentlemen, do you get a raise at work? Do you get more money every time there's a crisis or every time the price of gasoline goes up? You're like, no, that'd be crazy. I don't get more money in my paycheck because the price of gas went up. No, but you still have to buy the same amount of gas you always buy, right? Yeah. Which means you have less disposable income, right? Yeah. And if the price of fuel goes up, how do you suppose the trucking companies pay for the fuel? You think they just go into their own pockets and they're like, well, screw it. We just won't make any money this year. No, they raise the price of transportation, which goes into the price of the goods. And you go into the store and you're like, holy crap, why does this cost so much? Your wife goes to the store and she comes back and she says, you're not going to believe how much they're charging. That's from the wife. You're not going to believe how much they're charging for milk, eggs, toilet paper, whatever. Do you know why the price of the milk, the eggs, the toilet paper, the canned food, the whatever, do you know why it went up? Because it costs more to ship it to the store. And guess who gets to pay the bill? You. Do you know why the price of lumber? I was talking to Cork the other day, and he said the reason the price of all these goods, especially lumber and building materials, is going up is because the people who provide it understand that the dollar is being devalued by inflation. You're like, whoa, what? No. Congress is going to give us $1 trillion. Well, they're going to give us $1 billion, and then they're going to give $1 trillion to their cronies and foreign governments and stuff like that. They're going to launder it through intermediaries back into their own pockets. But, ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand that you can't allow a totalitarian socialist regime to just write checks. That money is it had. What happens when the government writes checks on an empty account? Do you think that the U.S. government has $1 trillion sitting in a bank account? You're like, well, I don't know. No, they don't. Their account is empty. We're in debt. You understand what in debt means? That means when you go to your checkbook and you get zeros, right? And there's nothing left. And then you start thinking, well, where do I get money? You go to the, what's those places that popped up about 20 years ago? The check cashing places. Like that. Oh, yeah. That's when you start running to the check cashing place and they hold it for 2 weeks and then they cash it plus 25% interest, basically Tony Soprano type interest. That's what the government is doing. They're devaluing the dollar, the currency, the money. And when it's worth less, companies have to charge more. Do you get this now? This is history. This has happened before, and it's happening right now. Now, so you said, all right, Paul, well, what does that have to do with the title of the story, which is crisis, ? Don't participate. Choose not to participate. If you're in my audience, now, is this pipeline attack going to affect us for months? Probably not. But it's going to affect you in the short term. Because what happens when people hear about this? They get antsy, right? And so they become desperate, and then you end up with lines at gas stations. And, what happens 24 hours before a hurricane, Southern people? You're like, everyone in town is at Walmart fighting over the last can of beans and the last loaf of bread and, flashlights and candles and stuff, right? Yeah. What would be a better idea? Joining all those other people in the attempt to crisis and panic buy whatever it is you think you're not going to be able to get? Or would it be better to just stay home or away from there and already have that stuff? Probably the latter, right? You see, and if more people were prepared individuals, then when things like this happen, they'd be like, well, that sucks, and it's inconvenient and it's annoying, but it's not going to kill us. It's not going to ruin our lives because we're okay. We have food, we have water, we have generator, we have fuel. We're good. So we don't have to participate. Wouldn't it be better if most of the country behaved in that way? You see, if most of the country were prepared individuals and we're not living hand to mouth, or we're not looking to Uncle Sugar to give them free crap all the time, then we wouldn't have these crises. Our economy wouldn't be so fragile. So, and I know you can't change your neighbor's way of thinking, but you can change your own way of thinking. Didn't Jared, before, what's crazy? Didn't you and I sit and have a conversation about the fuel cans and stuff? Oh, and guess what? That company that I ordered the fuel cans from refunded my money and said that they're out of stock.
Oh, darn.
They were in stock when I ordered them.
Oversold.
So what the F? That's like the airline selling more freaking seats than they have on the plane. Oops. So, yeah, that message I sent you about that, never mind. So if you can get those from from KSL or whatever, go ahead and do it. Well, yeah, Jared and I were just talking last week about why did that subject come up, Jared? Because this is not the first time we talked about fuel storage.
We talked about it because of the pipeline thing. It was on the grad program.
Not this pipeline. This just happened. This just happened.
Yeah.
It just happened on Friday. This is a brand new story.
Yeah, but we recorded on Saturday. So it was because of that. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. It was breaking news. Yep, it was breaking news. That's right. It was breaking news as we were doing the show. I think.
That was Monday's show.
It's the same pipeline.
Yeah.
Okay. But I actually replaced all my store fuel here this spring. And what I've been doing for a long time is I treat it and I store it and I mark it. I put like a piece of tape and when it was treated. And then generally annually, I'll just pour it into the truck, and that essentially that gives me a free tank of gasoline. You know what I mean? I know it wasn't free, but whatever. It could be
just a free rotator. Instead of filling up the truck, you fill up the cans. And
and then I go fill the cans back up and put the stable in it. Now, I have been told that there's a lot of different kinds of fuel stabilizer, fuel additives. You say, why would you want that? Well, because fuel, if it sits, it deteriorates, especially if you buy corn oil, if you buy the corn gas. If you buy corn gas, it goes bad faster. it doesn't store for a long time. So you have to put additive in it. Now, where we are, well, actually where we've been, because on the Gulf Coast, you can get 100% real gasoline because it's for marine vehicles. It's for boats, right? So all of our store gas was 100% real gasoline and we put the stable in it. It's called STABIL. There's other kinds. I don't care what your favorite brand is. My point is this. There are going to be emergencies. There are going to be crises. There are going to be, blips in the radar and so on and so forth. But if you make the purposeful decision not to participate by being prepared beforehand, then you don't have to be one of these run out and panic buy people, right? Or you can just float along with the tide and be like every other lemming who's fighting in the aisles of Walmart for the last can of beans or whatever. But I would suggest that you choose not to participate in the crisis. And I'm not telling you, Jared, have we ever told people go out and buy 1,000-gallon tank and bury it in your backyard or whatever? No. But it's just prudent to have about a tank's worth of gasoline stored. It's a few cans. Fill them up, put the stable in them, and then if you have a situation where it's a snowstorm or an ice storm or the prices spike, let's say that there's a crisis and the price of gasoline spikes, and you say to yourself, I'll punch you in the face before I'll pay $5 or $4.50 or $4.95 for a gallon of gas. I would punch you in the face before I give you $5 for a gallon of gas. You don't have to, because you've got an entire tank's worth of gasoline stored. So, or water, or food, or whatever it happens to be. If you're a prepared individual, if your household is prepared and a crisis occurs, you don't have to be part of this panic situation. Remove yourself and your family from that by preparation. And if more people were prepared, less people would be in line panicking. Less people would be panic buying gas or panic buying food or panic buying water or whatever. So you have the power right now to be a prepared individual. So move on. All right. Quick questions. Q&A. Looking to give my grandson a Glock. Do you know the laws in doing so? Where do you live? If you live in New Jersey, you probably will be a felon. If you live in free America, it's called a gift, and it's your private property. And you are still allowed in free America to gift your private property to a relative. Now, if you live in California or New Jersey or Massachusetts, don't know what to tell you. Do you know if Brownells will start shipping ammunition to New York? Why do you live in New York? Because I have to. Okay. Don't know. I would contact Brownells customer service and ask them directly. Do you have any other questions, Zach?
That's it.
That's it? Okay. All right. That is it for Wednesday's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for being out there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting our buddy Nicholas Orr in his venture in writing and his his fiction and the Pipe Eater's Guide and all that good stuff. And like I said, he's got an audio book. Also, don't forget about the Legion of Michael. That is our dedicated church security program. And you can find out all about the Legion of Michael by going to
legionofmichael.com.
Yeah, it's really hard to find. Legion of Michael.
I believe that enrollment is open right now, but it closes, let's see, 10th, 11th, 12th. Yeah, it'll close in 3 days from the drop of this episode. So
if you'd like to enroll, and you can listen to the Legion of Michael podcast every Monday. Every Monday, new episodes come out, and we have a book too. So help us out and help yourself out. All right, tomorrow there's been a tiger is on the loose in Texas, and that's not a euphemism.
That's awesome.
And we're going to talk about it tomorrow on the grad program. So stay tuned, freaks, because you never know. You just never know.
It's a bomb trying to attack my wife. A bobcat!
We might have to change that to a tiger attacked my wife. We don't know. That might happen. That's not funny. All right. So until then, remember, cats and kittens, you're a beginner once.
You're a student for life.
We appreciate your reviews. If you haven't left a review or updated yours recently, head on over to Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or your favorite podcast player to voice your opinion. Don't forget to join us at the Student Lounge, a place for like-minded individuals to learn, connect, and support each other. No chicanery will be tolerated. Remember to check studentofthegun.com daily for new, free content and giveaways. Watch, listen, read, shop, and connect at studentofthegun.com. Are you a social butterfly? Connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for new content each and every day at Student of the Gun. Watch Student of the Gun TV and videos from our trusted partners on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Chromecast, and even AirPlay. Go to studentofthegun.com for direct links, and remember, you're a beginner once, a student for life.